right, guys, welcome to the Culture and People podcast. Amy, in a few sentences, tell us who you are and what you do.
Hi, everyone. I'm Amy Fallucca. I'm the founder of a recruiting and HR consulting company called Bravent. On the recruiting side, we leverage technology and a really customized process to fill positions for a fraction of what contingent firms charge. So it's usually around 10% of first year salary. On the HR side, we help with kind of a range of projects from updating employee handbooks to helping implement performance management process. Clients, we've got clients across the US in a wide range of industries. So typically small to medium companies, and been doing this for about 4 years now.
Yeah, doing really well. Proud of everything you're doing for Milwaukee and for the area of what, culture and people. I think it's really great, Amy. So what is the best thing for you about working in this space and positively influencing culture and people? Really, not only in your own organization, but a lot of organizations.
Yeah. I think it's really fun to introduce clients to new concepts that they aren't familiar with and see those things actually come to fruition and have an impact in their business. So, I mean, just at a very high level, but looking at the employee experience, understanding, why do people come to work at your business? Why do they leave? What's important to them? I think those are some things that are really fun for me. As a side note, I use a lot of remote and part-time workers in my business. So that's something I'm passionate about, helping to sway my clients to consider those options. So as you might imagine with COVID, it's been really interesting to see companies shift to this fully remote model and sometimes different work schedules and things like that really they hadn't been traditionally open to. So I've actually been really jazzed to see them be forced to not be so old school.
Right? I mean, as tragic as all of this is, one of the benefits I do hope will be that they will remember, remember they can do it remotely. They will remember that it was okay, this is a big one, to say, I don't know what's going to happen next, or we thought this and then this happened, so we were wrong. That psychological safety, super killer. I'm curious, when you talk about it's important to know why your employees come to work, do you feel like there's sometimes a disconnect between why employees really come to work and why organizations think they do? Or do you think there's, okay.
Yeah, I think there's a difference. I mean, there are companies that are like, well, we have a great benefits package and this and that, or a lot of the, we pay great, or, we've got this fun environment. And I mean, I truly think it's different for each person. But generally, I think that people want to work on meaningful work that they care about and that they can develop, mastery and have some autonomy over the way that they're getting their work done. I'm sure you've read Daniel Pink Drive. So I fully ascribe to that kind of model of thinking about why people want to come to work.
Yeah, it pays to ask why, or 5 whys. Why? Really dig back into it, especially now. Things have changed, I think, post-COVID.
Yeah, for sure. I think people are expecting a lot more out of their work and out of their leaders than they did in the past. Like I said, when people come to work or look for a company, they're not just thinking about getting money or benefits. They want to be doing something they enjoy. And, there might be short-term people who aren't, aligned with the purpose and vision of the company, but I think long-term it just doesn't work out.
Yeah, I agree. I think the disconnect sometimes between what we think we know and what we, I don't know what the word I'm looking for, what we think we know and what we can confirm, right? It's too big of a gap sometimes. Yeah. So Amy, I'm hearing from other leaders like yourself that engaging employees is hard. Generally, we can talk generally, or we can talk COVID. What are your additional thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, focus on how you can provide them with purpose, autonomy, and mastery. Those are big things. And then I think communicating the why behind the work, especially right now with everything being virtual, you need regular communication touch points. You need to be clear about expectations. I think right now managers are avoiding addressing like performance issues or disconnects that are happening because of the virtual thing. And so I think my biggest thought on engaging people is like, don't run from it, kind of run towards it and hopefully bring that person along with you. But, one of the biggest things you can do to the detriment of your employees is just not to give them that feedback when they desperately need it.
Right. Yeah. And somebody joked with me on a different call the other day and said, when we furloughed people or had to make cuts, it's that who was at the top of your list for who's had performance issues that went unaddressed. And it's like, that's so sad. I've been there. I've been on that side of HR. And guys, if you're listening, that's not the only criteria, but it's sort of this joke of like, well, who isn't performing? You do have to address that. But the tragic part is that it isn't often shared specifically with the people. So I think what we're talking about is the old, really corny saying, but feedback is a gift. And I think not only a gift to the person, but we owe it to the organization as a leader. Like, I'm not doing the organization a solid by not giving this feedback to the person we're paying.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, that's the difference between a strong manager and one who's maybe not as strong, right? Is have they had those experiences of providing feedback and really working to improve someone's performance and having it worked out? Yeah. Or do they just have in their head that like, there's no way this person can come through it? And, I certainly am not saying that like everybody can get to where they need to be necessarily. And sometimes people just aren't in the right roles, but you don't know that until you kind of try to work through it.
Right. Could be a misunderstanding. I mean, I've been like, I can't believe this is happening. I give the feedback and I thought it was this. And you're like, oh, good. Now we're on the same page, right? Simple solutions, sometimes simple solutions. So what advice would you share, Amy? And I'm curious from you too, general advice on evolving a culture or your people practice, but also I'll put a little end on there. You've been leading remotely for a while. So if you have any advice for remote leading during times like this, we'll take that too.
Right. Yeah. So I wanted to be pretty tactical with this. And I really think that the number one thing that leaders can do to advance their people and their business is to spend more time with people. And it doesn't have to be in person. It can be virtual. So spend time with direct reports, spend time with people on the front lines, ask them how things are going, what could be better, both for them personally, but also within the business. What opportunities do they see? What are some things they think are silly that the business is doing or things they need to stop doing? I think that employees just have so much knowledge. And so I think the biggest opportunity is just to engage people in that discussion.
Yeah. Do you have a preferred cadence or a best practice in terms of that, how frequently you should connect one-on-one or as a team or as a whole company?
I do. I listened to the Manager Tools podcast for a number of years. I don't know if you're familiar with.
I'm not, but now I am.
Yeah, they have a whole model for one-on-ones that it's basically a weekly meeting. It's very simple, but as a manager, you should be meeting with each of your direct reports once a week. Yes. And they have, the format is, it varies obviously based on the discussion, but 10 minutes for you, 10 minutes for me, and 10 minutes to talk about the future. Nice. So I think, at a minimum weekly. And then those other, general feedback gathering for, the employee base, people who aren't necessarily your direct reports, do just one or two of them a week. And, within a month or 2 months, you'll have a lot of knowledge about, what's really going on in the business.
Yeah. And I always hear from leaders on the spectrum, right? There's the people who say like, oh, I just do the drive-bys. And I'm like, then you need more formal. And then I talk to the leaders who are like, I only do, really, I'm like, the only time you talk to your person is that 30 minutes once a week or an hour once a week, or maybe every other week. Do more. And, we need to be in that middle ground of you. Yes, I agree with you. Best practice, scheduled, formal, one-on-one connections weekly. I've always followed that personally as a leader. It's gotten me the best engagement and performance and trust with my employees. But don't forget, especially now during COVID, those informal, like, hey, I just thought of you. Like I text my employee and thinking of her. She's in Red Rocks right now, like on a road trip with some friends. Like, hey, I'm thinking of you. Send me a picture, just those little things.
Right.
Little things.
Yeah, connecting, I can be very business for sure. And I like, because I love business, and so it overflows to my personal life as well. But I think, taking that time to make sure you're connecting in other ways than just talking about work, and I think that helps to engage people. And, we're all humans, and we all have unique things going on. And if you don't connect on that level, it's just not as rewarding.
Agreed. Amy, this is a rich conversation. So we're going to pause this and go to part 2. So we will post 2. So stay with us, guys.